Morning, guys. So, dealing with typical technology issues, had to switch from my computer to the phone. So, excited to do my second Facebook Live and got some really good topics that I plan to cover on Fridays when I can. Today is an early release, so wrapping up the day early and looking forward to some fun with my daughter and my mom. Morning, Sarah. So today what I hope to cover is just the nuts and bolts of nutrition and how actually nutrition science is fairly new. We just now can start to dissect and look at foods and look at particular nutrients. But what's happening though is our food companies and media is running with it and kind of using it as scare tactics. So the way nutrition science was first introduced was just looking at like Greek mythology and looking at particular cultures and what they ate, what kind of diseases they suffered from or what kind of diseases were not. So what we would kind of look at as causation studies, and then started to explore were there trends with the foods that they were eating. As we started getting better with technology, we are now able to dissect. So for example, protein. We now can look at particular essential amino acids from protein and explore the impact on health. But what ultimately ends up occurring is foods are not eaten that way. They're not eaten by particular components. And so we don't really know what happens if we do long-term foods with fortification, for example. Now you'll even see vitamin waters. The body loves balance, and you'll hear that topic discussed a lot. So if there are too much particular essential amino acids, we may be blocked or we may not get enough of others. Zinc and copper, for example, and iron. If there's too much of one, it actually blocks the nutrients of others. So when I work with athletes, we talk a lot about iron absorption and how they also need calcium and how these two compete. But one of the best ways to protect yourself is to get from variety of foods, because in supplemental form, you see higher dosages than we would in food, and the way our body breaks it down actually helps to protect and maximize absorption. For example, I deal with a lot of clients that love to go low fat, even though that was back in the 80s and was shown to not be effective at all in combating obesity. That's what introduced our low fat products. And a lot of times people will do salad dressings with either fat-free or no fat at all. And the first study took a look at having those individuals, I think they used maybe vinegar for their salad dressing and the others used full fat. And out of those individuals that had a fat-containing salad dressing, they absorbed up to 85 to 90% of vitamin E or tocopherol, which helps with our immune system. And that's why a lot of people try to eat leafy greens or increase their vegetable intake. Those that actually had a low fat or no fat containing salad dressing only absorbed 15% or less of vitamin E. So that's new. We knew that we need fat to absorb certain soluble vitamins, but we didn't even realize that we need it at that meal for us to absorb those nutrients. So what's occurred is now we have food companies or media messages that know that there are particular chronic diseases that we're scared of, right? Cancer, heart disease, maybe even stroke. So if they can put really strong language like this food causes cancer, red meat, for example, nobody goes and hears the rest of the story. So it's not that red meat directly causes cancer. We understand when we do really high cooking, we can release a certain amine, like in a grill, that sizzle that causes that beautiful char on that steak is actually what can increase particular cancer risk. But it's not that red meat directly causes cancer. Now, if you do have a strong genetic risk for colon cancer, then maybe you want to be more aware of how often you eat that. But what's occurred now is people have this phobia of red meat and have started to avoid it. So from these Facebook Lives, I just want to empower you so that you can start to look at messages on social media, the news, whatever you're reading, and be able to dissect and understand if there's some truth to it. So one thing that's important is to look at where they're getting their data from. Is the research study even published? Sometimes they'll run with topics that aren't even completed yet, that don't have the end of the story. The other part is, are they looking at causation? So when, oh, please forgive me, I think it might have been Lipitor, when they did their first study on that, they claimed that cholesterol was vitally crucial to what we call myocardial infarctions, which would be the deadening of tissues due to blockage. So everybody panics and starts looking at cholesterol, which is good. We're looking at health awareness. But what they didn't say was those individuals that had more heart attacks also smoked. They had high blood glucose and they were inactive. But we ran with that study and took it that cholesterol is something that we need to be aware of. And to an extent we do, but we didn't look at big picture. And so now we have this push for early statin use or being very aggressive with cholesterol when we need to wait for more literature and research to come out before we start acting aggressively medically wise. The other part too is now we have claims on packages that good old Cheerios, they're not going to like what I have to say, but they'll hurry up and make claims on packages. So if you remember, my younger generation's not going to, but there was the father and son that was sitting there, and the son turns to the dad and says, "Hey dad, why are you eating your Cheerios?" And he goes, "Well son, I'm trying to lower my cholesterol." 2 weeks later, that same commercial, and I might have been different characters, switched to say, "Well, I'm eating for my heart health." Because truth be told, Cheerios is not a significant enough source of whole grains and high fiber to do anything to your cholesterol. But still to this day, that short-term commercial is enough that people will defend that they eat their Cheerios to lower their cholesterol. So powerful marketing. All you have to do is look at the FDA and see what's pulled on a daily basis, find, and they're back on marketing it again or on the shelves too. So avoid anything that has strong claims for your health and just look for things that are more general. When we are looking at foods, yeah, there's some truth to being able to have less processed, but I weigh out too, does this mean that then you're going to be so stressed out? Like last night, I didn't get home till 7 o'clock from work. Am I going to be able to put a nice full dinner on the table? No. So we used a rotisserie chicken and added some things to it, but at least we did cook at home and we got some balanced nutrition. So I'm pretty realistic with my approaches when it comes to nutrition, and I hope that you'll appreciate that. And we can talk about more aspects. Morning, Catherine. So some other things that I want to share is I've been reading the book Dietland. I don't know if anybody knows who Julie Duffy Dillon is, but that's one of her fave books. It is phenomenal. It's in a fiction sense, and it's talking about the diet industry and from a young age, the things that we teach to our young girls. And lo and behold, they are coming out actually on a TV series, so I can't wait to finish that book. Another little bit of new research, again, that we're starting to look at is protein powders. Protein powders are being used a lot. They're now in all sorts of foods. But what happens to gut health? You'll have a lot of people that talk about some of the GI upset that they'll have, and what they're now looking at is it actually changing our gut microbiome, or what we call like the potting soil in our stomach, which is being linked to everything. So I'm not saying let's not eat or use our protein powder, but I want you to kind of plant that seed that maybe we need to look at if it's impacting our gut health. And I'll have a whole Facebook Live on that. Today, our podcast with Mitzi Dulon's released, talking about her cool story with cooking with her daughters in the kitchen and how they actually even got to go to DC and meet the president. So listen for that. And then next Friday, Dr. Mel Strano is going to be talking about transition out of sport for those that are retiring, whether in high school or college. And then the following Friday, we'll have Sydney Spencer, who retired from the WNBA, and be able to hear her story of kind of struggles and triumphs. So I don't want to take up, live TV. There's my husband's work phone, or you never know what's going to happen. I still would love to listen or hear from you guys of what you'd like, but I hope this kind of sets the stage to talk about science, what new things are out there, what I plan to cover. and how food really does have power to it, and we have to look at it like that instead of always trying to use supplements as a band-aid, or looking for foods that are fortified. We've got it in our own backyard, especially for us in the Midwest. Let's support our local Kansas City food circle. I don't know if many of you know that you can actually go to that and find local produce in your area, meat, chicken, eggs, you name it. And you're actually helping support the economy as well. So I hope everybody has a great weekend, and looking forward to watch the tournament. Jayhawks in the second round. So let's go.